Warning. This video contains information that is educational and is therefore likely to offend fans of Manchester United, Arsenal and Liverpool football clubs. The information in this video will contradict the inaccurate theories that Manchester United, Arsenal and Liverpool are in fact perfect football clubs. This video may be distressing and highly offensive with possible side effects including vomiting, anal fissures, bleeding, eyeballs and severe cases of boiled piss. As such, if you are a fan of one of these football clubs, then viewer discretion is advised. If you do find yourself being offended at any of the information found in this video, then please go fuck yourself and go watch some classic matches of when your football team was actually good.
What exactly is sports washing, and are the likes of Manchester City and Newcastle United being used as pawns in a much bigger game? I frequently hear the term sports washing being used by rival fans of other football clubs as a point to their argument to morally elevate their football clubs above the likes of City and Newcastle. But the truth is, while these rival fans act pious and holier than thou, they clearly have very little understanding of the term sports washing. Certain fans of certain football clubs use the term so casually whilst being so blissfully unaware of how hypocritical it makes them sound. There's a belief sports washing is the strategic use of sports by nations, individuals, groups, companies or governments as a means to improve or repair damaged reputations. There's a belief that sports washing is an attempt to divert attention from poor human rights records or practices that are simply just harmful to the environment. These Western beliefs reflect a very narrow-minded and prejudiced mentality to assume that these Arab nations are purely driven to seek our validation and approval. This strange viewpoint suggests that only countries with impeccable human rights records have the right to host sporting events or even receive foreign investment. It's questionable as to whether a nation with an impeccable human rights record even exists. You could argue the likes of Norway, Sweden, Finland or Denmark all have excellent human rights records. But here in the UK, we self-righteously place ourselves morally above other nations claiming innocence in any wrongdoing whilst being so willfully ignorant to the fact that we supply arms for illegal wars across the globe just to line our pockets with cash. But these sentiments are very unlikely to resonate with the average football fan. For the most part, we simply want to watch football and support our own teams. So let's bring it back to football then. That term oil club or oil money is so frequently used and is more aligned with greenwashing rather than sports washing in truth. Greenwashing is known as another PR tactic, but more focused on changing a company's or country's environmentally friendly reputation. Man United fans so keenly call Manchester City an oil club while being so hypocritically excited about the prospect of being bought by the Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Jassim, Qatar being one of the richest countries in the world thanks to oil and natural gas. This was 2 years after Qatar's World Cup opening ceremony was boycotted by the British media, only to see coverage of the 2024 Euros being sponsored by Visit Qatar. The Qatari takeover of Man United eventually fell through. Instead, United were taken over by Ineos, whose founder Jim Ratcliffe very cleverly played up to his Mancunian roots and tried to claim himself as some sort of local businessman taking over Man United. This was purely to gloss over the fact that United are now being funded by Ineos, a multinational plastics and petrochemical company, which by their own definition makes Man United an oil club. Right then, let's rewind the clock back to 2019 and set the scene for a particular round of Champions League fixtures. Man United were playing PSG in the Champions League. PSG, who are owned by Qatar, who also sponsored Bayern Munich and Roma, as well as having a foundation project with Real Madrid. Real Madrid are also sponsored by the Emirates airline of the UAE, just like Arsenal, who weren't in the Champions League at that time, but still had their stadium named the Emirates Stadium. Then there's another of the UAE, Abu Dhabi, with a member of the ruling family of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mansour, owning Manchester City. Manchester City were taking on Schalke at this time, who were sponsored by Gazprom, an oil and gas company which is owned by Russia, which was at war in Syria with Qatar, which was being blockaded by Dubai, which still has many financial partnerships with Man United, whose opponents in this round of fixtures were PSG, who were owned by Qatar, which brings us back to pretty much where we started. And it's not just the football clubs themselves either. Since the 2022-23 season, the Premier League also created a goalkeeping award called the Castrol Save of the Month Award. Castrol being another oil company, in case you were wondering. Are you still with me? If only there was some individual who could stand above all of this convoluted, confusing mess of interests. I know. How's about Nasser Al-Khelaifi, a standing member in UEFA's executive committee? Khelaifi, though, who is also the chairman of BN Sports, which pays UEFA for its Champions League TV rights. UEFA, who were investigating claims of financial fair play breaches by PSG at the time, where Khelaifi is the club chairman. That is nothing more than a circus act of merry-go-round pure hypocrisy. The choice to become the owner of a football club is a calculated, financially motivated decision intended to create financial hubs, strengthen sport within the owners' nations, and forge business ties with the high-potential areas where the football clubs are founded. Sport also allows you to promote other business sectors to a worldwide audience. Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, the Etihad Airways, possibly the three most respectable airlines in the world today, have all utilized this strategy to near perfect marketing success. These moves are attempts to diversify their economic resources whilst moving away from their previous dependencies on the oil market. The financial gains of investments like the purchase of Manchester City and Newcastle United have nothing to do with covering up human rights issues, but are simply business strategies to reinvest back into the UAE or Saudi Arabia, respectively. My personal values differ from theirs, but who are we to judge a totally different culture to our own? I don't believe in having no free speech. I don't believe in executions, or the death penalty for that matter. I don't believe in religious discrimination. I don't believe in female discrimination, and I don't believe that homophobia should exist. Ironically though, so many of these issues are still covertly woven into the fabric of some of these self-righteous Western countries, whilst certain groups of football fans point a judgmental finger at the likes of City and Newcastle for receiving Middle Eastern money, all the while they willfully ignore the sheer number of sponsors that are slapped all over their shirts and stadium infrastructure, boosting the revenues of their football clubs in the process. Manchester City and Newcastle were not bought so that Western journalists can patronisingly pat them on the head like a good little dog seeking approval from its master whilst remaining oblivious to the dog's naughty behaviour. So why would these investors still endeavour with their sport washing ploy if that's the case? Nobody seems to be fooled by it. Their supposed attempts to pull the wool over our Western eyes haven't even managed to fool the likes of Mark Goldbridge. So if you can't even fool Mark Goldbridge, you can't fool anyone.
This is typical City now.